This is a story about how bureaucracy can go wrong. So we started off by doing an individually constructed vehicle. So you look up the legislation, and there is a section about individually constructed vehicles with a passenger car shell, and that's our section. In it says you cannot build an individually constructed vehicle with a passenger car shell unless Proviso A, it is built on a chassis, or Proviso B, it is so modified that it is unrecognisable from it, or a production variant. So section B is us. Engage an engineer, discuss it, and it is all good.
We started building the car when we had one side complete.
We put in the paperwork, and we also had a timing issue because the laws were going to change from statewide to national. So it had to be completed before then. So first time we put in the forms, the approval was declined. And the reply was, you cannot build an individually constructed vehicle with a passenger car shell. The engineer resubmitted it again, and it was declined. Their response was, you cannot build an individually constructed vehicle with a passenger car shell. So on the third time, I wrote to my local member, who put it through Parliament, through the Minister of Transport, and all the way down asking, why can't we get it approved? And again, you cannot build an individually constructed vehicle with a passenger car shell. The legislation has a proviso, which seemed to be ignored. I resubmitted it again, and on the fifth time, I asked, why are the important English words unless and unrecognisable that are used in the vehicle standards instructions not used? All my correspondents seemed to ignore them. I was told they don't apply. We tried a few other avenues to get it registered with no avail.
It should be noted that each application cycle takes around 3.5 months.
We rushed out to buy a wreck, which was for $10,000, which was repairable. We inquired if we could fix this vehicle with the parts on the other one we couldn't register. They faxed the information to Queensland Transport, to the same department who declined the other 5 requests. We were informed that they had photos of the orange car, but not the wreck. So we sent photos of the wreck. They said it was okay to repair the repairable write-off with parts from the car that couldn't be registered. They had a proviso that they wanted to inspect the vehicles, the 2 halves, before they were put together and after they were welded together to ensure that nobody fiddled with the VIN numbers. So indeed, we drove the car up, dismantled it, cut it in half, cut the rear end of the wreck and made 2 pieces of a jigsaw puzzle.
So just come straight forward, it's all loose. Straight forward. Yep.
Oh, mine. Yep.
Other one's ready to go too.
This one there is adjustable for speed?
No.
what about all the exhaust pipes? Pour it over. Getting down all that? And the wages that you will lose, but yeah. Oh. Up the hill? What's all this?
Aerial, luggage.
You want to put it here?
Yeah.
This was a perfectly good car.
When we had them ready, we called out the representatives of Queensland Transport who came to inspect our car, which by now was 4 pieces of half Monaros lying around the yard. They always come out in twos as witnesses. First off, he looked at the front cut of the repairable wreck and flicked the edge of the floor pan and said, "It's a big job." And my response was, "Yes, it is a big job, but once you get going, it really goes well. Everything drills well and good material is good to work with." Then he spotted the rear end of the red wreck we had discarded sitting against the fence line, and he said, "You couldn't have repaired that." So my response was, "You better go and have a look at it, because it had a tree jammed inside the rear wheel, and that was before it rolled over a couple of times." So up he goes to the fence with his digital camera, and indeed, there is a tree jammed into the bodywork, and the whole thing is creased in the seats and under the floor plan. He had to admit, you couldn't have repaired that. Then on his way, he spotted the different coloured wheel arches in the back half of the car. Out with the digital camera, click, click, click. Then I said, "Do you remember that this is an individually constructed vehicle that we couldn't get registered?" And I said, "Do you want to see the rest of it?" His response was like, "What do you mean by the rest of it?" So we went up to the front veranda, and there were all these panels laid out, and his response was, "Where did you get these?" That's when I picked up the mudguard and showed him the inside. These are all handmade. In that moment, the colour sank from his face, and he nearly passed out. He finally realised that we made an individually constructed vehicle, and then they made us cut it in half. I told him the guards were $2,400 worth of labour each, the quarter panels were $3,000 worth of labour, and the doors are around $1,200 worth of labour. After that, he wasn't too keen on hanging around. On his way out, he looked at the front cut of the Nissan quad cam, and he asked, "What did this look like?" And I said with exasperation, "It was a complete car, and I drove it up here, and I was ready to go." That made him want to get off my property even faster. So I tried to engage him in conversation, but he was pretty keen on leaving. As a parting question, "What about the second inspection?" He replied, "It's up to the Rex Register, and just needed to get out of here." And that was that, and he left. We finished off the car, booked it into the Rex Register, and then some other department took exception to the vehicle. I had my roadworthy impounded with the official receipt. It went through every department through Queensland Transport. Vehicle identification section, modification section, and then I rang them up every week, 3 times a week, for the 10 weeks it took. "Hello, this is Alex speaking. How are we doing with this car?" To which they reply, "We got issues with your motor vehicle." Yes, I well understand, but can we nominate them so we can address them? So after 10 weeks, they finally came up with a list. We have a list of issues that we have with your motor vehicle. Oh, good. Let's go through them. The first one is, I've got a fiberglass bonnet on it. Oh, my reply was, so I have a non-structural fiberglass skin over a genuine steel Holden bonnet frame that is a non-structural panel. Yeah, with a fiberglass bonnet on it. But I just told you that there is a fiberglass skin over a genuine Holden steel frame, and it's a non-structural panel. Oh yeah, you need fiberglass testing on it. Okay, where do we go for that? So I was told where to go for that. The second issue is that the fuel tank was in the boot, saying that it must be an aftermarket tank, knowing full well that they wanted a destructive testing of aftermarket tanks that cost $7,500 per test. So I replied, no, that's a genuine Holden tank. Because the Series 4 Monaro has a tank in the boot, and it was easier to fit the Series 4 tank in the Series 4 Monaro. So that must have been an aftermarket tank. No. If you want it from Holden, go buy it. It was $680. Oh, okay. The third issue is we have structural integrity issues with your motor vehicle. Oh, that's really interesting, I said. I spent a year of doing everything but cut the car in half, and one of your other departments gave me no option to do it but cut it in half. And now I have cut it in half and you take exception to it. And besides, I am an engineer and I have been doing cuts and shuts for over 30 years, and I hired a panel beater on the day with 46 years experience, and you're telling me we don't know what we're doing. Oh, can we get a certificate for that? And that is where the answer lies. Why bureaucracy doesn't work. Nobody wants to say yes to anything unless they have a certificate to absolve them of liability. So we get fiberglass sample made and we send it off, and they come back with flying colours. For that, it was $500 for a certificate. Then we get the engineer who is fully in the loop. He inspects the vehicle and writes a glowing report. And then I take the piece of paper down to the airport and present it. And oh, he thinks it's very good. And yes, it was. Lo and behold, the car was all good. So then we got it registered, but it wasn't the car we built. So that will be discussed in the third installment, to where we put down the whole thing again, reassemble it to the way that we built it.